Usually when people think about cults, what they think about is some kind of closed community that is usually dominated by some megalomaniac who controls everyone's minds.
It's funny, when I was a kid, I feel like you heard about cults all the time. There was all this anxiety and fear about your kids being swept away in some religious cult, being brainwashed, taken away from you.
Remember Jim Jones? He claimed to have visions that the world would end on July 15th, 1967. It didn't. Yet, far from abandoning him, his followers doubled down. They moved together to the jungles of Guyana and built a commune called Jonestown. A few years later, the end did come, though not through God's hands. Jones convinced his congregation to drink Kool-Aid laced with cyanide.
Die with respect, die with a degree of dignity.
Over 900 men, women, and children died in that jungle. And then there was David Koresh.
I'm sorry some of you guys got shot. But, hey, God will have to sort that out, won't he?
His followers, called the Branch Davidians, gathered at a compound in Waco, Texas in 1982 to prepare for the imminent end of the world.
It's true I do have a lot of children. It's true I do have a lot of wives.
Koresh believed that he himself was the second coming of the Messiah.
The book of Revelation says that in the future, God will sit on a throne, and he'll have a book with 7 seals in his right hand, and he gives that book to the Lamb.
Your followers believe you are the Lamb, is that correct?
There's a reason for that.
When the government found out about the huge cache of weapons that Koresh had stockpiled at his compound, it didn't end well. 4 years later, the world met Marshall Applewhite, known to his followers as Doe.
We'll title this tape, Planet Earth About to be Recycled. Your only chance to survive or evacuate is to leave with us.
Applewhite believed there was an alien spaceship following behind the Hale-Bopp comet, just waiting to transport his followers on board. But first, they had to shed their bodies. 39 of them did just that in a mass suicide.
Cults, of course, is a very broad term. For a lot of scholars of religion, we tend to not use the word cult because, you know, as we joke, cult plus time equals religion. A lot of the greatest religions, most successful religions in the world began as cults. It's a value judgment more than it is a functional word. The Roman Empire referred to Judaism as a cult. Some say that certain versions of Islam are cults. Nowadays, most scholars prefer the word New Religious Movement, or NRM. Just because it's a cult doesn't mean it's evil or insidious. Many cults bring people together for good. I have a confession to make. I have a soft spot for Scientology. I don't think it's fair to refer to Scientology as a cult. I mean, really, the difference between a religion and a cult tends to be how long the religion lasts. Christianity was a cult for 300 years.
My scholarly interest in Scientology often gets me labeled as an apologist for the religion.
Wonderful to see you all.
And in fact, I do often find myself defending Scientology at dinner parties. Yeah, I'm that guy.
Do you consider Scientology a cult?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you consider L. Ron Hubbard to be a charlatan?
He's a science fiction writer.
L. Ron Hubbard writes that 75 million years ago, there was an evil galactic emperor named Xenu who took all these thetans to planet Earth, and that's who we are. We are these thetans.
Look, it's based on science fiction. So was a lot of the Bible. If there were such things as investigative reporters 2,000 years ago in the Galilee, there'd be no such thing as Christianity. I want to see Lawrence Wright go up to Jesus and be like, so how many people did you feed with, like, how many loaves? 5 loaves? Because I spoke to Joab, and Joab said that he himself brought like 12 loaves, you know.
People who are familiar with Scientology are mostly familiar with the scandals, the control that the leaders of Scientology have over the lives of many of its members. I've heard the same things that you've heard. I'm familiar with the allegations of corruption and abuse, and I don't discount them. Though I will say that if corruption and abuse disqualified you from being a religion, there would be no religions.
This is Mei Sharim, one of the largest Haredi neighborhoods in Jerusalem. I was advised not to walk around here without a local escort, as outsiders are not welcome. I've heard that a lot of the Haredim, that their phones, even their smartphones, are either filtered or they're not even connected to the internet. Is that true?
Not only to the internet. There is this concept of kosher phone. You can only make phone calls and not even receive text messages.
It's all about keeping the world at bay.
Exactly.
It's all about that. What's all this?
This is the internet. This is the place.
This is the Haredi internet.
Yeah, this is the portal.
So these posters are just a way for an insulated community to communicate with each other. So I've heard that even with some of these peshkevilim, they can actually be very personal in nature, almost like, you know, so-and-so showed too much leg, or you know, something like that, like almost a shaming.
Yeah,
public shaming.
it's a low-tech style of shaming.
So it's like a way of almost policing the morals of the community.
It can be a sanction, yes.
How old is your oldest?
He's 11 and a half.
What kind of school does he go to? He goes to a yeshiva school, I would imagine, right?
Right. His day starts at 7:30 and ends at 5:30. It's a 10-hour day.
Does he also get the traditional secular education as well?
The very basics, meaning math. Of the 10 hours, 1 hour will be on secular studies.
I can certainly understand the importance of Torah study for the ultra-Orthodox. But only 1 hour a day of secular studies? Does that mean that Israel is looking at a growing population who may not be able to find South America on a map? Who may not know what the surface of Mars looks like? Or the basics of human anatomy? And finally, Shmuel returns, exhausted after a long day of Torah studies.
The whole day we were thinking, okay, when Shmuel comes home, that's when the real thing begins.
Everyone was waiting for you.
Shmuel, where is Shmuel? Shmuel, how was your day? You were able to learn. Yeah, you can't take that for granted.
So what did you learn about today? Can you share?
Eat something. While you're eating, will you think about it?
I could tell Shmuel was so exhausted at the dinner table. 10 hours of Torah study every day, except the Sabbath. And when I left, he picked up his Talmud because he had 2 more hours of study to go before bedtime. As a father of 3 sons, I have to be honest with you, my heart was breaking for Shmuel.
If corruption and abuse disqualified you from being a religion, there would be no religions.
Donald Trump has turned a large swath of white evangelical Christianity into a cult, into a religious cult, a dangerous religious cult. He has become a kind of a prophetic divine character. So what we are seeing now is that these white evangelicals, not all of them, but a fundamental core of them, have essentially latched on to Donald Trump as almost a salvific character. They don't just follow him, they don't just agree with him, they almost worship him.
It's a value judgment more than it is a functional word.
And my fear is that, as we know from our very recent history, cults, when confronted with the realities of the world, can often end in catastrophic ways. We have a presidency that is deteriorating, a president that is spiraling out of control. We have open conversations now about the 25th Amendment and impeachment. We have multiple investigations and the possibility of indictments at the highest level. This is a presidency that is in danger of completely disintegrating. That wouldn't be such a big deal if it weren't also a religious cult. Because when a religious cult begins to deal with this kind of situation, when their cosmic ideas are suddenly butting up against the reality of a failed leadership, they tend to double down. And that's why I think that we're in a very dangerous place as a country right now, because the only thing more dangerous than a cult leader like Trump is a martyred cult leader.
Just because it's a cult doesn't mean it's evil or insidious.